They told us not to go past the last mile marker, the one buried in moss and shadow. Locals whispered of a fire that had burned for decades, tucked deep inside the forest, a fire that no storm could touch, no man could claim. They called it sacred, cursed, alive. But we didn't listen. We were content creators, explorers, skeptics, and we thought the story would make good content, just another haunted campfire tale for the algorithm. The trees closed behind us like a jaw snapping shut. Phones lost signal, compass needles spun in lazy circles. But the path was clear, as if something wanted us to find it, and when we did, it was waiting. A fire already lit, no one around, no sound except the hiss of flame, and something quieter beneath it, whispering, just out of reach. We told ourselves it was wind, the crackle of wood, nothing more. That night, rain fell in sheets, cold and punishing. Thunder cracked like gunfire overhead. We laughed, filmed ourselves dancing around the fire, but the flames never dimmed, never flickered. They glowed with a color I don't have words for, something between orange and blood. In the footage, you can hear it. Go back and listen. Just behind the laughter, a voice, low, ancient, repeating one of our names, over and over. Morning came. The rain had washed everything clean. The tents were soaked, our boots waterlogged, but the fire was still burning. Not even a wisp of smoke had left it. And in the ash there were handprints, too many to count, some the size of a child's, some impossibly large. We should have left them, but the fire was calling. It knew our names, and now it knows yours. They called themselves the Uncharted Four, a group of lifelong friends turned viral explorers, chasing forgotten places for views and thrill. Their channel was known for camping in abandoned asylums, spelunking into collapsed mines, and sleeping in places no sane person dared stay past sunset. They weren't ghost hunters, just adventurers with cameras, adrenaline junkies armed with GoPros and sarcasm. This time, they were headed somewhere different. Not a building, but a forest, uncharted, untouched, and according to a single obscure Reddit thread, utterly cursed. First was Maya, the believer. She'd grown up reading tarot cards under the covers, obsessing over ghost stories, secretly hoping one day something truly unexplainable would happen. She wasn't afraid of the dark, she welcomed it. Her followers loved her for the way she could make anything sound haunted, even a leaf blowing across the road. But this time, her confidence felt thinner, more performative. Jay was the skeptic, Maya's opposite in every way. Logical, sharp-witted, endlessly annoyed by anything supernatural. He was the one always rolling his eyes during seances, calling out special effects whenever something moved on camera. To him, the forest was just another setting for clicks and views, until the fire started whispering. Leo the prankster kept things light. He'd jump out from behind trees, edit fake shadows into their videos, and claim he'd seen something just to make Maya scream. His energy made the channel go viral. But in this forest, something changed. His jokes stopped landing. His laughter sounded forced, thin, and he began waking up with ash on his hands. And then there was Nina, the quiet one behind the camera. She almost never spoke on film, but she captured everything. Her lens didn't lie. She noticed things the others missed. Figures between the trees, symbols in the moss, names written in smoke. The others called it coincidence. Nina called it evidence. Together, they were unstoppable, or so they thought. Their banter was electric, their chemistry real, their fear always half a joke. But something in this forest didn't care about followers or fame. It didn't care what you believed. It only cared if you listened. And on the first night, when the fire lit self, when the air went still and the night got too quiet, they all heard the same thing. A voice, soft, low, calling their names one by one. They were already half a tank from nowhere when they pulled into the gas station. A sun-bleached shack leaning to one side like it had grown tired of standing. One pump worked, barely. Flies buzzed around a flickering neon sign that read open, even though the place looked abandoned. Jay got out first, grumbling about needing caffeine. Maya followed, camera in hand, already filming. They joked about the location, calling it classic horror movie territory, unaware of just how right they were. Inside, the air was heavy, thick with dust and something older. A bell above the door gave a half-hearted ring. The store was empty, except for a woman sitting behind the counter. She didn't move when they walked in, didn't blink. Her skin looked like dried parchment, her eyes pale and cloudy, but somehow still watching. Leo tried to lighten the mood. "Hey, we're filming for our travel vlog. Hope that's cool." The woman didn't respond. She just stared at them for a moment too long, then slowly reached beneath the counter. Maya tensed. Jay rolled his eyes. The woman pulled out a candle, long, thin, the wax the color of old bone. She held it out in both hands like an offering. Her voice, when it came, was soft but sharp enough to cut through the silence. "When the fire starts whispering, don't answer back. No explanation, no expression, just that." They waited, expecting her to say more. She didn't. Jay asked what it meant. Leo asked if it was part of some local legend. Maya, for once, was quiet. But the woman just turned away and stared at the wall, as if she'd already said too much. Outside, the wind picked up. Dry leaves scattered across the cracked concrete like they were trying to escape something. Back in the van, they laughed. Called her the Witch of Pump 13. Said they'd use the clip as an opening gag. None of them noticed the candle had left a thin smear of ash on Maya's fingers. None of them asked why the wick was already burned. And none of them remembered, in that moment, what it feels like to hear your own name, whispered by something that isn't human. The forest swallowed them whole. No cell signal, no signs, just trees, tall, silent, and leaning in like they were listening. By dusk, they found the clearing. It was too perfect. A circle of flat earth surrounded by thick woods. No trash, no footprints, no signs anyone had ever been here. But in the center, someone or something had already gathered wood, perfectly stacked, dry, almost ceremonial. Jay raised an eyebrow. "Convenient." Maya knelt beside it, touching the logs. "They're warm." Leo joked about secret forest butlers. Nina said nothing. She was filming, always filming. They pitched tents fast as the sun fell. The woods got dark quickly here, unnaturally fast. Not twilight, but immediate black. No stars, no moon, just that ring of trees, tight and silent. Then Maya struck a match, one small flame. She dropped it onto the stacked wood, and the fire exploded to life. No lighter fluid, no kindling, no reason. But the flames surged high, orange and hungry, crackling like it had been waiting. They all stepped back. Jay cursed. Leo whooped and pulled out his phone. Now that's content. But even he sounded unsure. The fire didn't burn like normal flame. It twisted higher than it should, and the light didn't flicker. It pulsed. Like it had a rhythm, like a breath. Then came the wind. It howled through the trees, shaking branches, hissing through their tents. The fire should have died right then, snuffed out or blown apart. But it stood untouched, not a single flicker lost, and beneath the wind, whispers, soft, barely there, just beneath hearing, like voices underwater, a chant too quiet to understand. Maya froze. "Do you hear that?" Jay waved her off. "It's the trees." Leo grinned but didn't say anything. Nina kept filming, zooming in on the flames. They all heard it. None of them admitted it. Later that night, long after they crawled into their tents, the fire still burned, tall, steady, and patient. And just beyond its light in the trees, something waited, watching, whispering. The rain had started sometime after midnight. Not a soft drizzle, but a hard, relentless downpour that pounded the tents and turned the earth into thick mud. It was the kind of storm that usually left no trace of fire, no ember, no smoke. And yet, when the first rays of dull gray morning pushed through the trees, the fire was still there, still burning, not smaller, not struggling, exactly as they had left it, alive. Jay stepped out first, soaked hoodie clinging to his back. He blinked at the flames and frowned. "No way." Leo followed, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Weird forest physics or something?" Maya said nothing. She was staring at the ground. The fire's edges were ringed with ash, thick and black, but there was something else mixed in, something shaped. Handprints, dozens of them, pressed into the wet earth like someone had been crawling out of the fire. Some were small, childlike. Others were wide, with too many fingers. All of them pointed inward toward the fire. Leo tried to laugh it off. Okay, nice prank. Who stayed up all night doing this? No one answered. Nina was already checking the footage. They had set the camera up on a tripod before crawling into their tents. Standard vlog routine. A time-lapse of the fire. A quiet night scene. It should have shown everything. But as they scrubbed through the footage, something was off. No movement, no handprints forming, no figures, just the fire, burning silently, steadily, as if time ignored it. But then Nina checked the audio. She leaned in, turned the volume up, listened again. There, under the hiss of the rain, was a voice, low, gravelly, not quite human, not a whisper, but something slower, hungrier, and it was saying one word, over and over. Maya, Maya, Maya. The group went silent. Jay's hand hovered over the pause button, like stopping it would make it stop saying her name. Maya just stood there, eyes fixed on the fire. The flames didn't waver, didn't flicker. They were listening, waiting for someone to answer back. By the second night, something had shifted. The forest didn't feel like a place anymore. It felt like a presence. The trees leaned closer. The air hung heavier. Even the insects had gone silent, as if the whole world was holding its breath. But the fire, it burned brighter, stronger, hungrier. They sat around it with forced laughter and tired smiles, the usual jokes muted. Maya kept glancing at the shadows beyond the tree line. Jay stayed glued to his phone, even though there was still no signal. Leo was quieter now. He hadn't pranked anyone since that morning. Nina just filmed, as always, but her lens kept drifting back to the smoke. That's when they saw it. The smoke didn't rise naturally. It didn't drift or curl like it was supposed to. It formed, shapes, symbols, letters, floating for seconds before unraveling into nothing. At first, it spelled nonsense. Then it spelled J. He froze. Everyone did. More letters came, slowly, deliberately. Maya, then Leo, then Nina, their names, written in the smoke, over and over like a roll call. Jay stood up fast. Nope, I'm done. I'm putting it out. He grabbed the water jug and dumped it straight onto the base of the flames. But instead of dying, the fire screamed. The flames turned blue, unnatural and blinding. They rose taller, sharper, twisting violently like they were reaching. The heat drove them back, and in that moment, the whispers turned into words. Not murmurs anymore, but full sentences, in a voice that was not human. Deep, wet, like something speaking through drowning lungs. Do not run. You lit me. You are mine now. Jay dropped the jug and stumbled back. The flames surged again, then steadied. Blue fading to orange, smoke rising in perfect spirals. Their names returned, etched into the dark like a curse written in breath. No one spoke. No one laughed. No one filmed anymore. Because in the back of each of their minds, the same question had taken root. What happens when the fire finishes saying all their names? And worse, what happens after? The third morning brought silence. Not peace, silence. No birds, no wind, just the low, steady crackle of the fire that should have died 2 nights ago. Leo was the one who found it, half buried beneath a tree stump near the edge of the clearing. He had been digging out a flat spot for the tripod, muttering about uneven ground, when his shovel hit something that didn't sound like rock or root. A rusted metal tin, sealed tight with decades of dirt and decay. Inside, wrapped in plastic gone brittle with age, was a journal. Mold spotted the edges, but most of the pages were still legible. Maya opened it with trembling fingers. The handwriting was neat, desperate, slanting downward like the writer had been trying to outrun something. The first page was dated August 12, 1979. It told the story of a hiker named Thomas Wren, a man who'd gone missing and was presumed dead in these woods over 40 years ago. But the journal said otherwise. His words were scattered, paranoid. He'd come here alone, following rumors of a hearth that never dies, something whispered in old logging towns and passed like a curse through campfire stories. He didn't believe it. Not until the fire appeared on its own, already burning in a clearing that hadn't been on any map. The entries grew darker. He wrote of voices calling to him at night, smoke forming his name, the wind speaking in tongues. Of being watched, not from the trees, but from the flames. Then came the final entry. The writing was jagged, smeared with ash. The fire feeds on names, speak them, and it knows you. It remembers you. I haven't spoken in 3 days. It still whispers. It knows mine now. It knows what I am. Maya read it aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. Jay snatched the book from her hands and flipped through it in disbelief. There's no ghost, no monster, he muttered. It's the fire. A cold breeze moved through the clearing, but the flames didn't flicker. They understood then. This wasn't haunted ground. There were no spirits chained to the earth. The fire itself was alive, and it was listening. The deeper they read into the journal, the more the fire seemed to shift, burning lower, quieter, as if it knew they were learning too much. Thomas Wren hadn't just been a lost hiker. He had been a witness, a survivor, for a time. His final entries weren't just journal entries. They were warnings, instructions, a desperate attempt to document what the fire was and how it hunted. Maya held the book like a sacred relic, her voice shaking as she read the section they had somehow missed before. Folded between 2 blank pages, nearly stuck together by mildew, was a brittle, torn sheet titled The Rules of the Flame. The first line was simple, terrifying. It wakes every 7 years. Thomas had tracked it through legends, local disappearances, and unmarked graves. Always 7 years apart. Always the same forest. Always the same story. A fire that would not die, and people who vanished without a trace. It feeds on the living by calling their names. He described how it started, a whisper in the smoke, so soft you weren't sure if you imagined it, then louder, more insistent. The fire didn't need to see you, it only needed to know your name. If you hear your name and respond, even once, you're marked. Jay scoffed, pacing the camp. Marked? What does that even mean? Maya didn't answer, she just kept reading. Thomas wrote about hearing his own name night after night, spoken in the crackle of burning wood, hissed in the wind like a promise. He never answered, not once, but he began to see things, shapes in the trees, figures just outside the fire's glow. He believed it was testing him, trying to break his silence. Those who answer vanish before dawn. Some leave behind footprints in ash. Others, only a name still burning in the smoke. Leo sat still now, eyes locked on the flames. The fire for the first time seemed smaller, not because it was dying, but because it was listening, holding its breath. Maya closed the journal slowly. We don't speak if it calls, no matter what, no matter how real it sounds. A long silence followed. Then, from within the fire, soft and slow like a caress, Lou. He didn't answer, but his hand twitched, just once, and the fire grew. That night, no one spoke. No jokes, no filming, no nervous laughter to fill the spaces between the fire's whispers. They sat in silence, half asleep with eyes wide open, each afraid that if they blinked, something would shift, something would change. The fire burned steadily in the center of the clearing, never needing fuel, never dimming. It was alive, and it was patient. Leo was the first to fall asleep. He hadn't said much since his name was spoken aloud from the fire. He'd barely eaten. He just stared, through people, through the trees, like he was already somewhere else. Maya tried to wake him once. He only mumbled, "It's quieter now." At some point in the night, the rain returned. Light, cold, almost gentle, the kind of rain that should have erased everything. But the fire didn't mind. It burned blue again, whispering through the drops, every hiss sounding like a word. In Leo's dream, he was alone. The forest around him shimmered, not black sea, but silver, like the world had been drained of sound and color. He could see the fire burning on a lake's surface, suspended like a star, and from it a voice came. Leo, he turned toward it, not afraid, not even curious, just tired. Leo, it came again, closer, familiar, almost kind, and in his sleep he whispered one word, so soft it barely escaped his lips. What? The next morning his tent was open, empty. The others called for him, searched the trees, checked the trail. His pack was still there, his boots, his camera, nothing disturbed except the ashes. The fire still burned as always, alive and untouched. But now, beside it, pressed into the blackened earth, was a single handprint. Fingers splayed wide, deep, as if whoever left it had been pulled downward, not upward. Maya knelt beside it, trembling. The print was too perfect, too recent. No rain had smudged it. Nina tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. And as they stared into the fire, the smoke curled up gently, writing one name again and again. Leo, Leo, Leo. And below that, for the first time, a new name began to form. They didn't speak of Leo after that. There was no plan, no goodbye video. Just a silence so thick it felt like the forest itself was holding its breath. The fire kept burning. It never once flickered, but something had changed. It no longer whispered. It screamed. Every night, without warning, the flames would rise and howl, raw, high-pitched shrieks that tore through the clearing like metal scraping bone. It wasn't wind. It wasn't the trees. It was the sound of something in pain, or something pretending to be. Maya, Jay, and Nina stopped sleeping. They tried, but their bodies flinched at every snap of twig, every hiss of smoke. They took turns watching each other, muttering that staying awake would keep them safe. But the fire didn't care if they slept. It only cared that they stayed. Jay cracked first. He began pacing the clearing, muttering numbers under his breath. Every 7 years, he kept saying. Every 7 years, every 7 steps, every 7 names. He drew symbols in the dirt, then scrubbed them out before anyone could see. Maya grew distant, almost calm, but in a way that was more terrifying. She started whispering back to the fire. Not names, just nonsense, humming like a lullaby from a dream she didn't remember. Nina held the camera, but she wasn't filming anymore, just clutching it like a weapon. Her fingers bled from gripping it too tight. She kept saying, "We have to go. It's not the place, it's the loop." So they tried. They ran, north, then west, then anywhere, tearing through branches, boots soaked in mud, lungs raw from panic. For hours they pushed through endless trees, until finally they burst into a clearing. The clearing. Same burned out stump, same ghostly fire, waiting patiently, same handprint in the ash. Jay fell to his knees, laughing, not from joy, not from madness, from recognition. He hadn't left. None of them had. Maya didn't speak. She just walked back to her tent. Nina stood there, frozen, and whispered, "It's not chasing us." She looked at the fire. "It owns us." By the 5th night, only 2 remained. Jay hadn't spoken since the loop. He sat with his knees drawn to his chest, eyes fixed on the fire like it was telling him secrets only he could hear. Maya's name had stopped appearing in the smoke. Now it was his. Over and over, larger each time. Then came Nina's. The fire no longer needed subtlety. It roared now, laughing, shrieking, weeping all at once. It knew it was close. It knew the rules were nearly broken. Nina couldn't take it anymore. Her voice cracked from days of silence, of fear, of being hunted not by something with teeth, but by something far older. She stood, trembling, and looked at Jay. "I'm going to end it," she whispered. Jay didn't move. "I think if I give it what it wants, maybe you can go. Maybe one of us can make it out." The fire responded with a low moan, like a beast awakening, scenting blood. Nina stepped closer to the flames. Smoke curled around her like fingers. She inhaled sharply, then screamed her own name into the inferno. "Nina Ellis!" Silence fell. The fire paused, shrinking for just a moment. Hope flickered. Then Jay screamed. Not a word, just pain, raw and instant. The flames surged from the pit, clawing toward the sky, turning blue, then white hot. The sound that came from it wasn't human. It was laughter, rasping, ancient, gurgling with joy. Jay tried to run, but his feet wouldn't move. The fire twisted around his legs, not burning but pulling. And Nina didn't scream. She stood frozen, watching her own sacrifice fail. The fire had never wanted one. It wanted both. In a final breath, they locked eyes. Then, silence. The fire collapsed inward, sucking its light into a pinpoint, then vanishing with a soft hiss. The sky cleared. The birds returned. The wind whispered like a lullaby, and the clearing was empty. No tents, no gear, just a pile of dry, neatly stacked wood in the center, untouched. Waiting. 7 years would pass, and someone else would find it. 7 years later, almost to the day, the forest is calm again. Green, alive. The air is lighter, the sun warmer. There's no sign of what came before, no ashes, no handprints, no bones. Just a forgotten patch of earth and trees that sway a little too slowly when no one's watching. A van pulls up along a barely there dirt trail. 4 new voices step out, laughing, stretching, slapping mosquitoes. They're younger, louder, full of energy and oblivious confidence. A mix of influencers and backpackers looking for the real wilderness, hungry for likes and stories. They're here to disconnect, or so they say. They wander deeper beyond cell service, following a GPS pin dropped by a travel blogger who hasn't posted in months. One of them finds a path that isn't on the map, worn but not recent. Branches parting, a way in. It leads inevitably to the clearing. And there it is, the wood, dry, perfectly stacked, waiting. One of them laughs. Wow, it's already set up. Someone left this here for us. They joke about forest rangers, call it a sign, start setting up their tents. One of them stumbles over something half buried in the dirt near the fire pit. It's a camera, melted around the edges, blackened by time, but still intact. They dust it off, excited. Vintage. Might be something cool on here. No one questions why a digital camera would be here, why it looks like it had been burned alive but still beeps when turned on. They gather around the fire pit. No one lights a match. They don't have to. The flames ignite on their own, quiet at first, gentle, almost welcoming. Then as the camera whirs and begins to play an old video, faces flickering, distorted, a girl's voice whispering her name into the dark. Smoke rises behind them. It curls upward in lazy spirals, forming letters, one by one. E-L-I-J-H. They don't see it. They're too busy laughing. The screen fades to black, and the whispers begin again. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's ghost story. See you in the next, even more thrilling stories. If possible, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support me in creating more ghost stories for you. Thank you so much. Goodbye, and see you again.